And when you don't take things very seriously, your team's not going to take it very seriously.
You've got to believe it if you want your team to believe it. It's more than that. Is what's the impact I want to make? And if you're aspiring to be a leader, you got to find what's that thing that gets you amped up.
Leaders cast visions, so leaders lead. People aren't satisfied at work because we've got managers who are leading to outcomes, not leading to purpose. You might not be able to motivate everybody, but creating this environment where there is motivation has to do with consistency, standards, and expectations.
But what is the job of a leader? We need to be insanely optimistic. We need to be grounded optimists, and we need to point to the mission. Where are we going, guys?
You're listening to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, a podcast that delivers value and offers up insight that'll help your credit union grow. ServiceStar has been consulting with credit unions for over 20 years, growing them in the areas of cultural development, leadership development, and management training. To learn more about what ServiceStar can do for you or your credit union, check them out at servicestarconsulting.com.
Welcome to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. Today, we are going to lead the way like a tall timber in a tall forest. And those credit union leaders that are looking for some change in 2025, looking for some light, let's go ahead and find that canopy of light in today's topic. And today we're going to be blessed to have our producer on the ones and twos. Executive producer Rachel Neer is behind the scene making everything cook well. Also in the kitchen with the chef's hat on, we've got Scott Anderley mixing it up, and myself included. I'm Scott Albrecht. Let's get today's leadership tall task of being a leader in the credit union world accomplished with the topic of leadership. How you doing today, Scott Anderley?
Man, I'm doing great. This is my favorite course that we teach. It's like the thing I'm most passionate about. Actually, the first podcast episode you let me be a part of was called Leading with Purpose. And that's the big thing I have. And, one of my Gallup Strengths Finders top 5 is focus. And having what we teach in leadership is focus. And that's what a lot of people need. And that's why we need leaders. We need someone with focus to lead us into the unknown, or what does the unknown look like? Let's zoom in our lens and figure out what's my focus? How do I live out the mission of our organization? So really, really excited about talking about this stuff.
Yeah, it's hard not to be a squirrel watcher as a leader, right? There's lots of squirrels in the trees and they want your attention, And so organizational ADHD sets in and your employees begin to expect that you will not respect the last thing that you said, and they'll begin to just dismiss all of your big grandiose statements like today we are going to change everything and moving forward it's always going to be this way. Some of your tenured employees will just expect that that's not going to be reality because you can't stay focused on one thing as a leader. So today we're changing all that, right, Scott Anderley?
Yeah. Oh, and actually, what you talk about organizational ADD, that reminds me of an episode we recorded previously on service standards. I said, hey, let's talk about a challenge, but we didn't have time. But one of the challenges with service standards was actually what you just said. The boss walks in, CEO walks in, says, this is the most important thing ever since today just started. Forget what we said yesterday. We'll put a pin in that. Or, hey, actually do that too, but they're both important and urgent, but this is urgent 1, this is urgent 2. And then you're like, what do I do? So this leadership is going to really help you determine what is important for your role, what's important for your department. And that's what we talk about in that Vertex module. We give the aspiring and current leaders, we walk them through how do you create a purpose statement for your organization. And then we say, now that you have this purpose statement, here are the things you need to do. And we actually give you 2 practical steps of, all right, this is who you should talk to. This is what you need to do next. If you want to find that out, go to our Vertex course. We're not talking about that. What we're talking about today is we've got a lot of questions from past Vertex participants, from people we've done on-site training with our service and sales classes, and they've been asking these questions. So let's go ahead and let's take it to office hours. Office hours.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
All right, office hours. So like I said, a lot of these questions come from people who've taken our Vertex leadership program or we've trained on site. And naturally, this is the next thing that needs to happen after a lot of our on-site trainings is we need the people at the credit union to do the things we teach in actually our leadership module. This is a very, very important one. And this first question, I'm going to be honest, Albrecht, it grinds my gears. It irks me. Are you ready?
Yeah, I want to hear the gear grinding gurks.
All right. We had a leader say this. How do I sound authentic when pointing my team to the mission? I don't want to sound cheesy every time I talk about the mission. Do you hear that? Do you hear why this might set me off?
Yeah, yeah. I think he probably or she probably thinks that the mission is cheesy and probably doesn't take it too seriously. And when you don't take things very seriously, your team's not going to take it very seriously.
Mm, mm. That could be the answer right there. How do I sound authentic to pointing out the mission? Something I'll bring. All right. So back in my day, I was in a rock band, a songwriter touring. And what I would say, sometimes people would say, oh, we can't say this lyric. It's been said before. And a lot of songwriters think about, how do we say it a new way? How is it innovative? Well, there's a lot of songs that have the same exact lyrics. Tonight was so rough. But if you sing it with passion and it comes from a place that it's meaningful to you, like you actually feel this and you believe in it, use that same line. Use it. It's powerful to you and it's powerful to your team. And what I'd say is, man, if you're afraid of sounding cheesy, well, then you need to create a purpose statement for your department that lives out the mission of your organization and make that purpose statement authentic to you. Make it something that you can latch on to and say, oh, this is real. This doesn't sound fake or phony. And if you think this sounds fake or phony, if you think something about helping people win with money, helping reduce stress in people's financial lives, if you think providing excellent service every time when it comes to people's money sounds cheesy, man, there's something wrong with you.
Unless the cheesy part is like queso cheesy. Like maybe like when he's saying, or she's saying cheesy, he's thinking, they're thinking like, cheese dip, jalapeno cheese, a little bit of cheddar. You know what I'm saying? Hey, maybe it is about the cheddar. Maybe it is cheesy. You know what? Saving people money, making people money, right? That is cheesy. That's about the cheddar, baby. You know what I'm saying?
So I hear what you're saying. It could be like, I'm thinking of like those movies or TV shows where there's the person that hates their job and their boss comes in and is like, we're about helping people have a good day here, Jim. And what we got to do is just, if we could smile a little more. And yeah, that would come across as like Sergeant Cheese. And the thing is, what's authentic about it to you? You got to think about, all right, well, maybe you saying, let's smile and make people's day is not who you are. What is something that's real when you say it? You believe it. You've got to believe it if you want your team to believe it.
Yeah. I think that's the answer is some people go to work for a paycheck. Some people go to work to pay dividends in others and really pay purpose and move the movement forward. And so sometimes that takes outside intervention, some extrinsic kind of motivation to actually believe that you're there for a higher purpose, to see meaningfulness and relevance in your own work, to see that difference in your own work. And so many managers have that. Some are working to get to their pension and their benefits. Some are working just to get to a means to an end for something that they're really passionate outside of work. And so as you sit with managers mixed in a leadership development training, you may get some people who are going to have a hard time authentically sharing about the mission because they themselves are not intrinsically motivated to or tied or allied to the mission. So I think your advice to do some soul searching as to what is a departmental mission statement that we could kind of rally around that's still in alignment with the overall mission. But here in IT, we serve to protect members' data, which serves their financial interests, could be something that you could rally around because that's what you're into.
Yeah. Oh, it makes me think, all right, I don't follow people I don't trust. And how do I trust you? Well, I get to know you. And one of the things I want to get to know is what amps you up? What drives you? I think one of my favorite leaders is people like Truett Cathy from Chick-fil-A, Walt Disney from Walt Disney, or Bob Iger, the current CEO of Walt Disney. And what all of them, they have a clear purpose and they're leading people towards this purpose. And it means something to them. And what are they doing as leaders? How do people trust them? Is because they know, all right, what I'm doing for this organization, it's not about a paycheck. Yes, we all want to make money. Some of us might want to make a lot of money. But it's more than that, is what's the impact I want to make? And you look at someone like Truett Cathy, and he's not in the chicken business. He's in the people business. You look at Walt Disney, he's not in the theme park business. He's in the business of creating magic for families through stories. And everything drives that. And then people say, I want to be around that. I want to do that. And that's what leadership is about. And if you're looking to hire a leader, you got to find someone. They need to be competent in all the skills. All right. They might not be the best in all of the organizational skills. They need to be competent, but what they need most of all is they need focus and to point people and to inspire people like that. And if you're aspiring to be a leader, you got to find what's that thing that gets you amped up. Because that's when people come into work and they just need a paycheck. And yes, we want a paycheck. We want good benefits, but I've got to have a boss that cares about what we do. Because if my boss doesn't care, I'm not going to care. That's actually one of the things I love about working at Service Star. Albrecht, I know that you and Mike and Taylor, seeing Taylor do the credit union PhD course, that's when I said, man, shut up, take my money, I'm in. And that's when I decided to do this.
And we actually give you money to do it, which is even better. You get both things. Leaders cast visions, so leaders lead. And there's a lot of people that get the paycheck, get the title, and they manage to outcomes. They manage to their checklist. They manage to getting to the end of the day. They manage to getting to the end of the project. They manage to getting to the end of the core conversion, whatever. They're managing to outcomes and operations and processes, which disengages teams and creates some of the stats that we went over in a previous podcast, where there's, the lowest ever results in Gallup research that shows people aren't satisfied at work because we've got managers who are leading to outcomes, not leading to purpose.
Yeah, that's a great segue into the next question. Here's the next question. This is actually from one of our Vertex participants lately. They do a case study at the end where they use this case study, but what's really exciting is it's not just a group project. They're teaching me Vertex. So it's a really powerful moment when the people you've been training and teaching and have showing them this is how you apply it in your life. They're showing, hey, here's a situation. Oh, actually, this happens in my life. And they start sharing about that as well in the graduation. And they share, and then this is what we do based on what we learned in leadership. Well, one of these teammates, she stayed on a call and she goes, hey, our group's in charge of doing a SWOT analysis for this case study. I said, that's great. Awesome. And she goes, but my question is, we can't do the SWOT analysis without having a purpose statement. The SWOT analysis should be reflecting if we're living out our purpose. Is that right? Man, I got pretty excited. But before I start talking about it, Albrecht, if someone was to ask you this question, whether it's in our leadership program or if it's a client that we're working with and they're planning for the next year, why would it be important to do a purpose statement before doing? You could almost look at the SWOT analysis almost as more of a managerial task, where the purpose statement is more of a leadership task. Explain why the order of this is important.
Yeah, SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And if we don't have strengths in light of anything, then we can kind of go into a plethora of areas that could be strong, but it might not actually help us advance our movement, right? Mm-hmm. We might be strong in the fact that we can talk about grandkids for an hour on the tower line. We might be the strongest credit union in talking about baseball. We might be strong in the fact that we're the most knowledgeable when it comes to, but none of that actually helps us in what we, come to work to do, which is improve people's financial well-being. And so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats can get sidetracked real quick if we're not saying, okay, yeah, but based on our purpose, what are our strengths? Based on our purpose, what are our weaknesses? Based on our ability to advance financial well-being forward, what are some of our opportunities and threats? And it just keeps the conversation focused. I mean, to your question, what do we do with credit unions? We spend 2 days sometimes in strategic planning sessions just talking about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And those 2-day sessions would be like 2-week sessions if we weren't trying to focus that to something like a purpose statement. So you said leadership's all about focus, and it really becomes important when you're talking about strategic planning, because these strategic planning sessions are all about coming away with 1 to 3 to maybe 4 tangible things that we can focus on. And when we pick 1 to 3 to 4 tangible things to focus on, that means that we're picking things to say no to.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a book, The One Thing, by, I believe it's Gary, but the one thing.
Make it up. Gary Boucher.
I don't want to make it up because it's the founder of Keller Williams, the founder of Keller
Okay.
Williams.
Gary Williams.
Yeah, Gary. So this book talks about what's the one thing. You got to focus on that. All the little things need to be supporting that one thing. And sometimes what we hear is, "Oh man, we just got a strategic planning session. We did a SWOT analysis. Man, we got a ton of to-dos." Whew. A ton of to-dos. Like, I understand that there's a lot of things to do. I hope they're all to do that one thing or maybe three things, but we don't need 20 different things we're trying to achieve at once, or else we're not focusing our resources, which that's actually the next part of leadership. Leadership, you have a purpose, you create a SWOT, and then naturally what you do is you start strategically thinking of how do I focus my resources to live out our purpose? And when do I need to redirect? When do I need to remind my team? And what I loved about the question here is she actually caught our case study or caught our team saying, hey, we need to focus our resources with the SWOT analysis. What's our purpose that we're trying to achieve with this contact center team that we've been given? And yeah, really, really good points, Albrecht. Well, let's take a break. We're going to hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we've got another question from one of our past Vertex participants. We'll see you in a bit.
Credit unions typically provide about 2 weeks of training to a new teller. But did you know that the average manager goes 10 years without receiving management training? How much training is provided to your new managers? ServiceStar's Emerging Leaders program will take your new and emerging leaders and deepen the bench to move the movement forward. We're looking forward to seeing your emerging leaders at our 2-part series, one in the spring and one in the fall, where we talk about leadership hacks, building trust, coaching essentials, effective mentorship, change management, developing your brand, managing former peers, and work-life integration. All sessions are from 2 to 4, and they start soon. So go to ServiceStarConsulting.com and register your team today.
We're back to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. But Albrecht, you got a little Cobra Kai look going on over there. What's going on?
To get your mind focused on the credit union movement, sometimes you got to take the credit union movement and focus it on your mind, man. So I got a credit union PhD tie wrapped around my head and, just kind of really trying to keep purpose present mindfully and intentionally every day, man.
That's awesome. All right. Well, keep that focus. All right. Keep the PhD on your mind as I bring this next question. All right. And this next question is actually, it's a bit of a story. It's a situation from one of our Vertex participants that did really, really well, was really engaged and really wanted to make a difference on his team. He was in charge of the whole lending department. But this question he has is specifically with his indirect lending department. This is what he says. I have a team, the indirect lending team, feels very overwhelmed with work and loans at this time of year. I did this big event. I called a team meeting and I surprised everyone at this meeting. When they all came, I told them we weren't going to talk about work. Oh, instead, we're going to get to know each other. It was great. We connected. We played this game, and I used this as a moment to reinforce that we will have busy times and we're going to have slow times. But this is our team, and we can trust each other on a human level. And I use this to bring in our purpose of we help the members afford life. It was great. It was powerful. You could see the relief on everyone's face. Well, we do weekly meetings. 7 days later, everyone came in with the same attitude. Everyone, meaning they were all overwhelmed, not relieved. They were all feeling that stress again. I was expecting this to last a little bit longer. My question is, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? Albrecht?
Yeah, if you take somebody out of a prison and send them to Disneyland, and then send them back to prison and wonder why they're frowny in prison after going to Disneyland, because they're still in prison. And so these one-time events don't work. Actually, when they bring ServiceStar on to, first and foremost, let's catch up doing things right. That's awesome. That's actually how you build teams, is bringing, having people get to know each other and connect. And there's more work to do, obviously, because you're still working in a spot where there's a lot of work. Maybe you're short-staffed, and so leaders lead. And
Let me stop you right there, because
yeah,
you did say catch doing right. And yes, we need to be very important. This guy did a lot of things right. He's bringing in leadership. He brought in the purpose. We have a team building module, and we talk about what do you do at each of the 4 phases. And he literally learned, oh, I need to use more direct coaching of this is what we're doing and leading the team through this. Because they actually, what wasn't shared here, but I know because I know him, is they had a team member leave and they brought in a new team member at this time. And it's a team of less than 12. So they're in the first phase of team building. He's doing everything we teach in Vertex. He's doing it right. You're on the right track. But I think what you're about to say, Albrecht, is you haven't reached the finish line yet. Right?
Yeah. Coaching is moving your team up to the highest level, and coaching people, and I wanted you to hear this, in every area in which they need to be coached. And so it may be that the faces that he's seeing as he's showing up to work when people have a lot of work to do, that might not be how we live out our mission at the credit union. Like that might be a behavior that this person sets aside as one of the minimum expectations is we smile and we have a positive outlook. Now that may be, naive to think that we always have to be positive about maybe some things that are going on that aren't so good. That doesn't mean we can't get feedback on those things, but we can't complain about our work, or we can't complain about our workload to our coworkers. We can't create this toxicity that serves as a negative neutraling for the rest of the team. Some people are actually excited to come to work, and people who are negative about the work can bring those people down and actually disengage people who otherwise would be very engaged. And so as a leader, you might not be able to motivate everybody, but creating this environment where there is motivation has to do with consistency, standards, and expectations. But what I was going to say is these one-time events, be careful, be wary. You spend all this time, all this money, all these resources on these one-time events that Scott Anderley and I get to go to. There has to be more than just a one-time event. The average manager talks about leadership. The average manager talks about mission about 30 minutes in a year. Dang. And it's probably at that all-employee session or that all-employee get-together. And so we actually, at ServiceStar, we would tell you to not tell the team that it's a training event, because people have figured out training. People have worked in credit unions for longer than a year. They get the training game. They know how to play the training game. And it's basically you show up, you smile, you look like you're engaged, and you have no intention of doing any of it after the fact. And so instead of calling it training programs or training development opportunities, we started calling them delivery mechanisms. And one of the true tells as to whether or not a program will succeed or not succeed is if somebody at some point in time says, hey, I really like that we did this, versus somebody saying, hey, when's that ServiceStar thing going to stop? See, if it's a ServiceStar thing, then it's a training. If it's a, hey, I love that we're doing this, that's something that your credit union is using ServiceStar as a delivery mechanism for. We're just taking what you already have and we're accentuating it with training behaviors that you can pull out of the classroom and plug into real world competencies that actually help you live out your mission more as a leader and help live out your mission more as an individual contributor for a credit union. And so we got to stop thinking about one-time events as a cure-all, and we got to stop thinking about it as a training event. And we have to have leaders lead and say, this isn't coming from anywhere. Like some people will say, ServiceStar is coming on site next week. And the questions that they'll get is, well, where is this coming from? Why are we doing this? Right?
Yeah.
What did we do to deserve, are we underperforming? And so as a leader, you got to get ahead of that and be like, no, this is not anything new. If anything, we're just taking what we already are, our mission statement, our core values, our DNA, and we're just showing you a delivery mechanism for actually getting that to be real world behaviors that are more effective as it aligns with our mission.
Yeah, man. So some stuff you said, and let me see if I can say it again a different way. With this situation, with this lending department manager, we talk about this in team building. You're going to see how all of our different trainings, they all interweave. You need all of them. They're not compartmentalized. All right, you came in, you introduce the purpose, you're bringing the team together. And usually in the first phase, we call it the G phase. You want to know why? Come to our class. The morale's high. Everyone feels good. You get it. Oh, this is what you bring to the team. Yeah, you're so good. Oh, this is what we're doing. This is what yeah. And then when the work actually hits, morale goes down quick. because now you're putting yourself to the fire. You're doing the work. There's some tension. We're getting on people's nerves a little bit. It just happens. And when what I want leaders, current leaders, people that want to be in leadership, this is going to happen. There's going to be some time where morale goes down. But what is the job of a leader? We need to be insanely optimistic. We need to be grounded optimists, and we need to point to the mission. Where are we going, guys? I know it's hard right now, but remember what we said? Remember that good time we had? Remember what we're accomplishing, the people we're helping? Let's keep this up. Let's see how we can do this better. And then your team, they pick themselves up, they dust themselves off, they lick their wounds, and they say, all right, how can we do this better so it doesn't beat us up as much? And then you start building systems and operations to help you be more efficient living out your mission. So what I'd say is keep this up. I would say find some sort of consistency once a month, once a week, or however you want to do it, where you can have these moments where your team feels together and you can point it to the mission. And then this is the importance of catching people doing it right in relation to your mission. You say, hey, these are our service standards, or this is our mission. And hey, I want to catch you doing it right. You were living out our mission when you stayed a little longer before going on lunch break. You helped us close some more loans with members so they could afford life. Things like that. Albrecht, what else did you want to say before we end off this section?
Just because morale goes down doesn't necessarily tie to a link in productivity. So many times when you're trying to figure things out, morale goes down, but productivity goes up. And so on new teams, after the G phase is done and you're in the R phase, you will see a drop in morale, but you'll actually see an increase in productivity. So it goes back to what we say in coaching. If you want to make friends, go sell ice cream. Don't be a coach.
This is great stuff, guys. We love talking about this. Reach out to us. We'd love to get on a call with you. We'd love to come to your credit union. We'd love to be the big event that you start referencing and using back that starts the transformational shift or continues the transformational work that you are doing. Reach out to us. But right now, what we're going to do is we have my favorite segment of the show where we let the listeners catch each other doing it right. This is meant to inspire current and aspiring leaders. So we're taking in submissions. There's a link in the show notes where you can record yourself. It's really easy. Send straight to us. And then we put it on the show. The purpose here is for you to catch your team doing it right. And then you send them, hey, listen to this podcast episode. And at the end, they hear their name and the specific behavior and how it's tying into the mission. Man, you're going to make them feel good. And you're going to create purpose in their work and get more engaged workers. So let's listen to the submission that we got today. And guys, thank you so much for listening to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. Till next time, it's Scott and
Scott.
All right. Well, producer, go ahead. Play that catching you doing it right. We'll see you next time.
Catching you doing it right.
Hey, Matt and Trevor, congratulations on your Vertex graduation. Lately, you both have had opportunities to coach and hold your employees accountable. I know coaching and accountability can be very challenging for supervisors, but you guys have done such a great job. I appreciate your willingness to have these tough conversations with your employees, and I hope you know that you're making them into a better employee. You're helping them to reach their full potential, and you're helping Wasatch Peaks to reach its mission. Now that you have these awesome Vertex skills in your toolboxes, I know you too will be able to handle anything that comes your way. Thank you so much for all you do every day to serve our members and to serve your employees. I appreciate you, and congratulations again. See you guys.
Interested in submitting a question to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, we want to hear from you. Go in our show notes. We have a link over there, and in that link, it's going to take you to two options. You can submit a question written out through email, or you can submit an audio recording through SpeakPipe. We make it super easy. Go to the link in the show notes, click audio recording. Once you click audio recording, it's going to take you straight to a website where you just press the record button. You've got 90 seconds to submit a question or submit you catching doing somebody do it right. And then you just type in your name and email address, and that's it. It comes straight to us, and we'll take it from there. So you don't need to download anything. You don't need to get any new software. You just go to this website, press record, and click submit, and we're good to go. So go to the link in the show notes, click if you want to submit a question written out or through audio, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Are you ready to unlock the secrets to personal and professional success. Service Star, we proudly present a specialized 4-hour course on emotional intelligence, custom tailored for the credit union industry. Come and embrace a transformative experience in our dynamic and interactive program. And when I say interactive, I mean interactive. This is a workshop. We're going to be discussing things, talking about concepts, bringing in the science of this, but then you're actually going to do work, practical work. Some of this work, it makes sense. You're like, I can see how I can do this every day. Some of this work's very intense and people go, wow, this is very elaborate. And it's meant to get you in the headspace to start thinking in lines of how leaders and how our member-facing employees should be thinking when interacting with teammates and external members. We're going to talk about the core aspects of emotional intelligence and unveil its profound influence on the workplace performance, member relations, and just our overall well-being. So sign up for this class, gain the essential skills to navigate both work and life with ease and grace. We've got the link in the show notes. Excited to see you there.